I fell in love with the craft over 50 years ago, and the feelings never faded. I sometimes ask myself, when is a chair more than a chair? I'd say when it carries in its joints and craftsmanship the passion and dedication of many generations of chairmakers. I've given my life to these humble chairs, as have many men greater than I before me. This is our story, the maker's story. I've been making chairs for over 50 years. It's been in my blood all my life. There's so many measurements in my head. They've never been written down. It's just been passed on from one person to another. I left school when I was 15. I'd helped my dad in the workshop. I'd always liked working with my hands. Making things, fixing things, you know, I'm just one of those sort of people that likes doing that sort of thing, you know. I always thought I'd continue his craft and become a chair maker. We used to hire a pickup truck and go and get the ash out of the woodland. The person that owned the wood would have marked the trees which he wanted taken out. We'd just saw those down, cut them to length and put them on the truck and bring them back home. If I'm using ash, you start with it in the round, small trees. Then you cut the logs down to size so that it's manageable to get onto the saw bench. Wood is a nice material to use. It's very forgiving. It's amazing to think that it's all just natural material.
Before the Industrial Revolution, then all production was craft production, so everything was handmade. Now increasingly, then more and more of nearly everything in our everyday lives is actually machine-made. Working all the way from a tree to a finished product, as Lawrence does with these chairs, it's an amazing thing.
I've always thought the relationship between a craftsman and his materials is an intimate one. I source a lot of the materials I work with myself. To make the chair seats, I harvest rushes from the River Avon. If you've had a nice warm spring, the rushes will be ready to cut in June. You do get to know the river, the depth of the water, where you can walk and where you can't walk. I use a large splashing hook and cut them low in the water so you get the longest length. I drag them out onto the bank and tie them up and bring them back home to dry in the sheds. The story of these chairs started in a small workshop in Herefordshire way back in the 1800s. The story of my family's connection to these chairs is a long history. Philip Plissett was one of a few chair makers that had inherited his craft through generations. Clisset made a lot of chairs for the Art Workers Guild in London. This place was alive with the craft makers of the day.
The Art Workers Guild were a collection of artists, architects, craftspeople who recognised over 100 years ago the qualities of traditional crafts and trades. It's wonderful to talk about these chairs in this place because this is the most incredible collection of this type of landaubac chairs.
Seeing how long these chairs have lasted here, it fills me with pride. It's amazing to think my chairs could last the many lifetimes that these have. An architect designer from London, Ernest Jimson, saw the chairs and went to visit Clisset. Basically apprenticed himself to Clisset to learn how to make chairs. Jimson used to get his timber from a local family-run sawmill. The youngest in the family, Edward Gardner, asked his father if he could set up a workshop at the sawmill to work with Ernest to make chairs. They worked together for years until Jimson died in 1919. After Jimson's death, his colleagues the Barnsley brothers took over his work at Bedales School and needed someone to make the chairs he had designed for the library. So they sought out Edward Gardner. I think Bedales Library is one of the most amazing buildings I've ever seen. Edward Gardner built hundreds of chairs for Bedales Library. Many of them survive to this day. His chairs sit side by side with later editions built by me and my father. It's an interesting story how my dad got into chair making. Edward Gardner did an interview on the Home Service. He was saying that he was looking for an apprentice. So my dad jumped on his bike to go over and meet Edward Gardner. Dad got the job and worked with him for nearly 20 years. And when Gardner died, Dad carried it on.
Lawrence is in an amazing position where he's had this skill passed down from Clisset, Jimson, Gardner, Neville and on to Lawrence, and that's an amazing lineage.
I've been in the workshop for 51 years. It's interesting to see over the years how things change. Things do evolve all the time, but you never stop learning. You just find a slightly better way of doing something. I've always hoped this craft would have a life beyond me. Someone to pick up the torch and carry on the trade. But it's not an easy thing to pass on.
The problem is a lack of a method for one craftsperson to pass their skills on to the next generation. That's the situation that we have here with Lawrence. He needs to somehow be able to stop working for long enough to be able to teach someone else. But how does he earn a living whilst he does that?
This has always been more than just a trade for me. It's who I am. The fifth man in this line of makers. These chairs are some of the strongest reminders I have of me and my father. Looking back at the many chairs I've made over the years, and thinking of families growing up with them, and how they're cherished and handed down generation to generation, I feel a great deal of satisfaction and pride, I guess. My name's Lawrence Neal, and I'm a chairmaker.
Craft has something to offer us in the 21st century. There's something deep within us that craves an escape from our increasingly digitised modern lives. If these skills are lost and the craftspeople like Lawrence's knowledge isn't passed on, we'll be losing part of our heritage. If we value these crafts and want them to be passed on to future generations, then we will have to make conscious decisions to make that happen.